though I might not have directly paid for your education, I'm going to benefit from having you being a literate citizen in my area. That's an example of a positive externality, often referred to as a spillover benefit, spilled over from the private market. What we see is the greater the incidence of positive externalities as a result of firms co-locating within a particular region, the greater the productivity is of the whole. This is where, and I think we talked about this a couple of classes ago, where we stated that a cluster, generally its output is greater than the sum of its parts. And that's where these positive externalities really emerge. Let's see. We talked about the multipliers. We talked about how incomes could rise, and then they'll be shopping in our stores and in our restaurants and so on and so forth. But what about the proximity of similar manufacturing companies per se, where they could actually act either tacitly or just by, or even in some collusive way that's legal, they could create a consumer block of buying raw materials. Maybe they can get together and buy raw materials. Now they've benefited from the externality of them being co-located. So they can go out there and try to get lower cost natural raw materials. Not only that, their output might be so similar that customers now, instead of going through the old Thomas Registry, I don't know if you remember the old Thomas Registry, they used to have books. I just want to point that out to the young people. There were books. Now it's all online, but they used to have books that you had to go through and find out, okay, who sells these parts, right? Now you just click it online and probably even get on eBay. But what happens is now customers will say, gee, this area is known for this type of product. I'm going to call folks down there. That would be an example of a positive spillover just through the existence of these different clusters. Okay, that would be within a particular region. So that could add to the competitiveness. And then I added this attitude. All right, the attitude would those are my exclamations. Attitude will contribute to multi-factor productivity. What do you think I mean by this attitude? Because I know there are enough practitioners still left in this room today that run across this issue almost on a daily basis. What do you think I mean by this attitude as a variable within a multi-factor productivity? Attitude. What attitudes do we see that may drive competitiveness?
Well, I think as far as from a community standpoint, when the community is behind what's going on, that they're more apt to support different projects or opportunities that come about, as compared to groups who maybe have a bad, I hate to use the word attitude again, but a bad outlook on the community, tend to be negative on anything that has to do with that.
Have you had this experience in LaPorte?
Yeah, maybe a time or two.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Can you give, without naming names, can you give us an example? Because some students here have not been involved in those sorts of things.
Yeah, I think the intermodal is like the ideal. A lot of people judge a project without ever looking at any kind of pros or cons, just on the negative connotation that they might have for the area in general.
They take a gut reaction.
Exactly.
And they say, no, I don't want that.
Well, we're going to cover this with Professor Keaton's here.
Right.
This whole business of community attitudes.
Right. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring it up first.
Industrial realtors will tell you that's a deal killer.
Oh yeah. It's also the political will that is included as well. I talked a moment ago about leadership. Attitude is at all levels. It's a very important idea or concept at all levels in the competitiveness of a particular region. What I want to do, I said, see figure 2 of Kitson, the Kitson text, which would be not there. Would be right here. Regional competitiveness, an elusive yet key concept. All right. Now here, what I like about Kitson and others is that they took a holistic approach to figuring out how to at least understand the regional competitiveness based on a lot of things. We talk about human capital, social, institutional capital. Wow. cultural capital, infrastructural capital, knowledge and creative capital, and productive capital. Seems to be capital based, doesn't it? Okay? And what I really liked about this, this article, that's why I spec'd it, is that he does take a holistic approach to understanding the meaning of regional competitiveness. Instead of just focusing on what Porter might have told us, he took a look at a lot of these different things. I mentioned human capital, productive capital, of course, that would be the machines, right, we're talking about. Knowledge and creative capital. And notice all this is regenerative, all this is cyclical, it's very holistic. I like to look at this and call it a mind map. Anybody understand? Anybody ever been exposed to mind mapping? It's a technique that was actually developed by Leonardo da Vinci. I knew there would be a way I could bring up da Vinci into regional development, but what it is you take a holistic approach, you kind of take notes and draw pictures and arrows, and you take a step back and you take the whole picture, and quite literally the whole is greater than the sum of the parts when you put it together. Knowledge and creative capital. One of the interesting things that we've talked about here among practitioners, I think it was actually you, John, that mentioned kind of almost like a golden triangle of educational institutions within this particular area. We have Purdue, Calumet, we have Boston, we have Valpo, that have their niches in various academic pursuits, and if we could somehow link the triangle of those particular creative capital centers, perhaps educational centers, we might be able to do some pretty interesting and great wondrous things, especially from an engineering standpoint and business and innovation standpoint. Infrastructural capital, roads, bridges, railroads. We have very strong rail in this area. Cultural capital. What do we mean by that? Cultural capital. Well, what does Kitson mean by that? As if you read it. What does Kitson mean by that? Cultural capital. What do you think? If I said we really need to invest in our cultural capital. What do you think I mean?
Arts, music.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't that way of life? Isn't that quality of life issues right there? Exactly. Do you live at work? Some of us feel like we live at work. Yeah, absolutely. But do you really live at work? It's not necessarily where you are located. Where you're located is not necessarily where you live. You live where you have fun. You live where you are able to recreate yourself, right? We need to have a vibrant cultural capital investment, if you will, in order to encourage this innovation. Without this, you're not going to be able, there'll be a dislink here. You see, there'll be no links here between the social institutional capital and all these other capital measures. And so I just thought that was interesting. And this is something that's often disregarded when we are really trying to understand the competitive advantages that we might have or may not have, over others. When I was at the, I think it was the NERC planning, regional planning meeting, one of the meetings, I went to two of them. I went to the one in LaPorte County, the other one in Porter County. At our table in Porter County, there were two young people about your age that were sitting at our table, and we asked them point blank, what are your plans? They were college students. What are your plans when you graduate? And both of them said, we want to get out of here. I said, why? There's nothing to do here. There's nothing for me here. Well, you can probably get a job. Yeah, I get a job, but I'm 24 years old, and I want to go have fun. I have to go to Chicago to have fun. I have to go someplace else to have fun. Where are you moving to? Oh, I'm going to move to Wisconsin, Eau Claire, Wisconsin.